Okay. I hope you can see the text. Can you see the text? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, we are looking at Acts 27:28. Let me give you some background to it. So basically, Paul has been arrested in Jerusalem. Then he was in Caesarea for 2 years, where almost 3 Roman authorities he stood before them, and he had to go for trial. So one was Felix, who wanted to get some money out of him. Then there was Festus, another governor, and then came King Agrippa. And it was in front of King Agrippa where Paul says, I am appealing to Caesar. And because he appealed to Caesar, King Agrippa says, oh, you could have been released, but now since you agreed to go to Caesar, you want to see Caesar the king, so you will go to Rome. And in those days, so he was taken to Rome. Now, we must remember that in the biblical times, now how we are traveling sometimes by ship from one state to another. People go to ship in Goa, in all of that, or sometimes to another country also. In those times, there were no passenger ships. There were only cargo ships. So people traveled in like this, like there is Malgadi train, goods ship. And they had to wait for several days before a good ship was there, and few people were allowed to go and travel along the ship. So that is how they used to travel. So now when it was decided that they would sail, okay, and so this is how they set sail for Italy. Now Paul and some other prisoners were, one second, I just want to, okay, yes, were handed over to the centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment. We boarded ship from Adramyttium, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia. And we put out to sea Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica. Now he was one of the travel companions of Paul, and we can read about him in Acts. He was there even from before. Now, let me just show you a bit of a map to just give you an understanding of the route that Paul took. Okay. Okay. I just want to, okay, welcome Sinai also, if he's joined. Yeah, let me just, okay. So this is basically the ship, and see, they start from here Caesarea, where Paul was in trial for 2 years. Then they go to Sidon, and from Sidon they go to Antioch. Now over here they get into some kind of a wind pressure, makes it difficult for them to. Then from Myra, then there is a place called Crete. Again, there is some wind pressure, and this is the place where the major storm takes place. And then finally, their boat crashes at Malta. This is where the boat shipwrecks. And from then on, after they wait there for 3 months, and then they carry on their journey to Rome. Okay, now this is basically the route. So from Jerusalem, I'll show you in the next map also. So yeah, this is Caesarea going to Sidon. Then yeah, then then from here they go to Myra. Okay, this is a bit of a storm area, and from here they go to Crete. This is the where the ship gets completely lost. Now, what is really interesting to know is that had this ship missed this island of Malta and would have gone further ahead, they would have had to keep in the ship, going in the ship for many hundreds of miles, by which time they would have died also in the ship. It would have been very deep. So it's really amazing. They had no control over the ship, but yet God guided them correctly to crash. See, this is such a small island and such a big sea. So it just goes to show God's control even in the midst of storm. So they correctly went and hit this bullseye, this island, from where they could be safe and from where they could proceed. Okay, so this is very interesting to make a note of. Now, I think here we will find some references to today's text, Acts 26 and 27. Okay, so we'll come back to this, but we'll keep reading on. So again, Jerusalem to Sidon. Now, behind Cyprus to Myra, from Cnidus, then going Salmon, Lasia, Paul's warning here. Paul warns them not to, there'll be a problem. Paul tells them, but they ignore Paul's warning and they keep going ahead. Now, this is where the storm comes. The ship is totally out of control. Then they hit this island called Malta, where a viper, a snake, bites Paul's hand. And then from there, they, there they understand that Paul is a great man of God. And from then on, they go to Rome. Okay. That's what. Okay, now this is where we see. Now, please remember that Paul's missionary journey was the final destination was always Rome. Paul always wanted to go to Rome, but he was arrested in Jerusalem, so he could not go to Rome. But and it used to be very expensive for anyone to travel to Rome because Rome was considered the center of the world. But see how God's plan was that Paul was arrested. And it was officially all expenses paid, taken to Rome. So sometimes we might think that this is trouble and crisis, but God's plan is working in that. And Paul could actually go to Rome and preach the gospel. So this is really, really very interesting. Okay. So now we come back to the text. And yeah. So, okay, so we boarded at the ship from Adramyttium, about to sail for port along the coast of province of Asia, and we put out to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. Now, when they are talking, can anyone guess what this word "we" means? We. Who is there in we? Now, Paul is there and Aristarchus is there. So the word should have been they, but why we? Can anyone tell me what that is? We. Why is the word we used here? Who is we? Who else was there besides Paul and Aristarchus? The writer.
The Holy Spirit.
Huh?
The Holy Spirit.
No. Anyone else who wants to try?
Luke.
Yeah.
Luke.
Yes, Luke, the writer of Acts, he's saying we, that means he was there. So Luke was also there on the boat. Yeah. So that's how it is. Now they go, and the next day they landed at Sidon. We just saw that area, Sidon. And Julius, in kindness, Julius was the centurion who was involved, the officer who was involved in taking Paul. Now allowed him to go to his friends so that they might provide for his needs. Now it's very unusual that a police officer will release the prisoner at a dock and say, go meet your friends and come. Because in Roman Roman rule, if a prisoner runs away, the officer in charge or the soldier in charge is put to death. So why do you think Julius was so kind towards Paul? Any idea? That he was able to trust Paul and say, go meet your friends and come back. Okay. Yes. Anyone? Mrs. Jacob. Welcome, Mrs. Jacob. Yeah. So this is basically, yeah. So this is basically, what does it mean? It means that he saw something in Paul. He saw some quality about Paul that was really, really, it touched him, it impressed him, that how wonderful person. There was some godliness about Paul. You know, the Roman centurion also recognized that Jesus had authority, and he came to him that, Master, please heal my servant. Then the centurion at the cross also saw that surely this was the Son of God. So these centurion officers were really quality people, okay, and they were able to sense good people very well, and so he knew that, and that is what was something that could have worked, a divine friendship and trust. Okay, so from there we put out to sea again and passed to this lee of Cyprus. Okay, and I'm just going little fast because we try to finish 2 chapters and finish the book of Acts today. Okay, and when we had sailed across open sea of the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we landed at Myra in Lycia. Okay, now so they are going on in their ship and everything is okay. Now they're going from one dock to the other. I'll show you the map again, don't worry. Okay. Okay, there the Centurion found an Alexandrian ship, and again, so they are taking connecting ships, you understand? Because there are no passenger ships, so they have to wait for some ship which is going, in that direction. Okay, so they are taking an Alexandrian ship. So basically, an Alexandrian ship would have been a ship that's coming from Egypt and carrying wheat towards Italy, because it had a lot of grains in it. So all the wheat and grain was supplied from Egypt. So that is why the ship is sailing for Italy, and that's where Rome was. So they went on top of that ship. Okay, now we made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Cnidus. When the winds did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed to the lee of Crete, opposite Salmon. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens near the town of Lasea. Okay, now let's see that again. Let's see that map again, if possible. Okay, so from here they go to Sidon, Myra. They get onto this grain ship sailing towards Italy, and there is some difficulty here, and then finally they come to Lasea. So this is where they are. Okay. Now see what happens at this place Salmon, and then they come to Lasea. Now see what happens at Lasea. Okay. 1 second. Okay, I think you're. Oh, yes, I get it. I got your message, Mrs. Zagan. Okay. All right. Now, so when they are moving, so this is a bit of just journey. So please understand. Just stay with me, and then we will come to the interesting part. So much time had been lost because the wind was obstructing. They had to take stop in some places because they were pushed by the wind, and sailing had already become dangerous because now it was after the Day of Atonement. Now, Day of Atonement was basically a Jewish festival that came during winter season, and there was a time when between, I think, about 5-6 months in the year that the Mediterranean Sea used to be very dangerous to travel because the huge storms used to come. So people avoided traveling in winter. Okay. But the centurion, the sailor, they were all thinking, no, we will push ahead. They wanted to go. So Paul is warning them, no, don't wait here. So Paul warned them, you see, men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship and cargo and to our own lives also. But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and of the owner of the ship. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on, hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there. This was a harbor in Crete, facing both southwest and northwest. Okay, now let's go and see this thing if we can find Crete. Okay, so they were basically at Lasea, and they thought, okay, they would just go towards Phoenix. So I think that was the place that they wanted to go towards Phoenix. So it was very close by. They thought they'll just go from year to year. But the storm suddenly sets in because they ignore, and then they get dragged into the deep sea. You understand? See how terrible it is. They are warned clearly by Paul, don't move from here. It is inconvenient, but stay at this harbor. But they said Phoenix is close by. We can go like Bombay to Pune. We can go to Pune, no problem. We are not thinking of traveling to Delhi, Pune. So we can manage it. But see what happens. They start getting scattered. Now, definitely we can say that God is with Paul and Paul is warning them, but they don't listen. Okay. Now, coming back to the text, can anyone tell me why does the centurion not believe Paul and go with what the pilot and the owner of the ship is saying? Anyone? Why did the centurion decide to ignore what Paul is saying and go with the pilot and the owner of the ship? Anyone? Please unmute and answer. Paul is warning. Paul is a prisoner. Yeah. Luke and Aristarchus are his travel companions. Usually prisoners did not have travel companions, but maybe Paul, maybe unless they say they are the slaves of the prisoner, otherwise King Agrippa might have had some, Paul was a Roman citizen, so some extra advantage would have been given to them. So why does a centurion not listen to Paul and trust the pilot and the owner of the ship? Can anyone tell me? It doesn't matter if your answer is wrong, just say what you think. It's just common sense. Anyone? Sinai? Mrs. Marcus?
Because probably Paul was not a sailor.
Because Paul was not?
Paul was not a sailor, maybe. They did not.
Correct answer. So Paul was not a sailor. So if your car breaks down, you will listen to the mechanic, right? You will not listen to the pastor who's traveling with you, because you will think, what does a pastor know? Or you might not listen to anybody who has no experience at that. Correct? So that's why Paul is not from that field of a sailor. He was a religious teacher and all of that. So there was no such thing. And that's correct. Yeah. Now, so he trusted in their experience, he trusted in their knowledge, because these people do this every year. They know exactly how to take the ship. So I should not trust Paul. I should go ahead and trust what they are saying. Now, can you tell me, in our life, why do our calculation of life, how life will happen, in the next 2 years, 5 years, I will do this. So why does our calculation often goes wrong? Anyone? Like we predict in 5 years, I will get a promotion or I will get here, there. We often have a certain calculation of things. Why does it often go wrong? Our plan of life. Yeah.
Because we don't know just like the answer earlier, we actually don't know where, we don't know, our future is uncertain. Like we don't know our future. God knows our future better.
Yes, correct. We don't know our future, and God. So normally, what are we trusting more? More than what God is trying to tell us, or God's voice, God's leading. What do we actually end up trusting more when we are planning our life ahead? Anyone? Anyone?
We go according to the standards of the world. Like
we go according to standards of a world. Yeah. Any other answer?
We use our own logical mind.
Huh? Yeah. What did Sano say? Okay. Yeah, Sinai, go ahead.
She said logical mind, own
logical mind. Yes. Yeah, Sinai.
I don't know. Maybe I think we think too much about the future and not about the present. I think maybe that's why.
Yeah. Okay, but very much like the centurion, we trust more worldly wisdom, worldly knowledge, or we trust our own ability to calculate. I know where I will be in the next 2 years, 5 years. It's a piece of cake. This is what we do. And one of the words that in the Bible, God says, to the people, that some of the traders, he says, you think you will go to this city and do this, do that, but you don't even know your future. So we should always say God willing. If it is God's will, let it happen. So it's so important to acknowledge God. It doesn't mean we should not make plans. We can always make plans. Of course, if there is God's leading, we should always pray, and God, let your will be done. Show me how. But if there is silence, make plans, but always be willing to surrender to God, in the way that He wants to lead us. Okay. Now, it's very important for us to think about. This is a reflection question. You don't need to answer, but generally, what kind of a person you are? Are you somebody who's always going according to your mind, calculations, experience, measurement? Or are you somebody who's always saying, Lord, lead me, Lord, I want to trust in you. I want to listen to your voice. That's very important to answer. Think about it. Just reflect upon that. What kind of are you like the centurion, or are you like Paul? Please think about it. Yeah. Okay. Now, so when a gentle south wind began to blow, they saw their opportunity, so they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called a northeaster swept down from the island. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind, so we gave way to it and were driven along. So now they get caught into the storm. Phoenix gaya e baju, and they are now getting swept into the deep sea. Okay, so as we passed the lee of small island called Clauda, we were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure. So the men hoisted it aboard. So there were some lifeboats probably hanging. They were put on board because the storm was so great. Then they passed ropes under the ship itself to hold it together. Because when you so this was a practice that when the ship is in the storm, what they do is they put some ropes from below the ship and they tie the ship. It's like you're tying a bundle of sticks together, so the wooden planks don't come out. So you are actually tying the ship with those ropes. So they were afraid that they would run aground or crash onto some sandbars at Citrus. They lowered the sea anchor and let the ship be driven along. So have some weight and slowly we drive. We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard. Now, tackle was basically an instrument by which they would pick up the cargo and put it on the dock. And if they are importing something, they will pick it up and put it on the ship. So they even threw the instruments. What was the cargo, by the way, the ship was carrying? I just said some time back. It was grains from Egypt that Rome often imported. Okay, so they were throwing it. Okay, so on the third day they threw ships that were neither. Okay, so now can you tell me why do you think they threw the cargo in the water? The bags of grain that the ship was carrying, it was a merchant ship, no? It was a ship that was full of goods. It was not a passenger ship. Why did they start throwing the cargo? They must have kept some for themselves, but major of the cargo that was to be sold, they started throwing it. Anyone?
Probably the weight of it could not contain the weight of the passengers.
Okay, to make the ship lighter, to lessen the weight, correct? Yeah. Now, can you tell me how does the storm changes the things that we value? How did the storm change the sailors about how did their definition of what was valuable change because of the storm? What did they value before the storm and what did they value after the storm, in the middle of the storm? Rather? What was valuable for them before the storm? Anyone?
All the things that were there was valuable.
After
the storm, the life was valuable. I think.
All the things that were
in the ship that was valuable for them.
Correct.
Because they will make profit out of that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Any other answer? Anybody else wants to answer? Yeah. So they must have said this is 10 lakhs ka saman hai, ye 5 lakh ka, ye 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs ka saman hai, pata hai, iska itna bhav hai market mein. But once storm came, all of that became valueless. Then they realized, oh my God, my life is more valuable than all this. And they started throwing it to save themselves. So can you tell me now, how does the storm that comes into our lives changes our value, changes the things that we value about? What happens usually when a storm hits our life? Personally, I mean, what are the things that happen? What are the things we normally value? But what are the things we start valuing once the storm hits us? Anyone? What are the things we normally are very, yeah.
We try to pray more and reflect.
We
Try
try to
the things. Pray.
pray
Take
for.
time. We try to take time to pray more. Otherwise, like when we face a storm.
Okay, we neglect prayer before the storm, but then after
Yes.
once the storm comes, we spend time. Okay.
Correct.
What else? What else is something we value a lot more before storm comes? And what is it that we start devaluing once the storm hits us? Anyone? Yeah. And yes. Quickly answer, please. Yeah. Normally people value their money a lot. Yeah. Sina, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's more about the position designation. You don't value sometimes if you have a storm, you fall back, you understand your real support system. It probably can be your family, your relationship,
Yeah.
spiritual life, and
Okay.
all the things.
Yes. Yeah, I heard some part of it. There was some disturbance in the network. I think you said family relationship. That's true. Sometimes people don't have time for their family members. They don't have time for God. They don't have time for their health. So they don't value all these things. Suddenly, then once the storm comes, then they understand, my God, what was I doing? You know. So today, is your life being weighed down with unnecessary things? Is your schedule full of things that is actually of no value according to eternal perspective? The Lord says, do not run after the things of this world, but store treasure in heaven. So think about that. Think about it. What are you carrying? What is the cargo that you're carrying that is actually valueless, that is not going to save you when the storm comes, that you need to probably get rid of because it is making you really heavy and very difficult to live. Sometimes unnecessary expectations. This is how my life should be. This is how it should be. This is what I want. Can also be a great, can bring a lot of heaviness in our life. It can take away our joy. It's very, very important to trust in the Lord, live a life of surrenderance, be willing to give up things and just fix our reward in eternal perspective, not trying to fill things here when we are going to be when we are going to be rewarded with everything over there. Yeah. Now let's move ahead. So they threw those things and okay. So verse 20, when neither the sun nor the stars appeared for many days, the storm continued to raging. So when it says, what does it mean for a sailor when he cannot see the sun and he cannot see the stars in the sky? What does it mean for a sailor in ancient times? No, then your voice is not coming. It's because of the net disturbance. I think you will probably need to disconnect or connect or put it on the chat if you can. Yeah. Yeah, maybe disconnecting, connected, or its audio is not picking up. Yeah. So it means you are lost because earlier they did not have any radar system. They used to look at the stars and then they used to decide. It means they're completely lost. They don't know where they are going. Now imagine the storm is taking the ship forward. They are not in control of the ship. Okay. They are completely at the mercy of God's hand now, where God wants to take them because they do not know where they are going. They have no control over their life. They are completely in the eye of the storm. So sometimes, it's just a way of surrendering to God. Storm can also be God's hand in our life. Not all storms are bad. Okay. After they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them. So they had gone a long time without food because of seasickness, not that they were fasting, because they were struggling, they were depressed, they were sad, they were fearful. Then Paul gets up and says to all the people, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. See, I told you now. Now, it's not a good habit to tell people all the time, I told you now, I was right. It's not a good habit. Okay, now Paul is not doing to show he is right, but he wants them to now believe what he is going to say next. Some people want to always show they're righteous. See, I was always right. I was always right. That's not a good thing to do. But Paul is saying, because he wants them to at least now believe what he's trying to say. And here is Paul taking leadership because nobody knows now what to do. Okay. Then he gets up and says, you would have spared yourself and damage and this loss. Okay, verse 22. But now I urge you to keep up your courage because none of you will be lost. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So he says, do not be afraid. You must, okay. Okay, men, you should have taken advice. But now I urge you to keep up your courage. None of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. So now he's predicting prophetically. Nothing is going to happen to you. Only the ship will be destroyed. How does he know that? Last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong, whom I serve, stood beside me and said, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Yeah. Okay. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, man, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. That means he said the ship is going to be destroyed, but you will all be saved. This is what my God has told me, and it's very important to testify. Okay. Now, Paul is doing that, and sometimes as Christians also, we are placed in our office, in our home, in our building and society also to tell people don't be discouraged, to tell them about God. So very, very important lesson. Okay. Now, let's go to the next. On the 14th night, we were still being driven across the Adriatic Sea when about midnight the sailors sensed they were approaching land because they could hear the waves breaking, so the sailors could make out the sound. They took soundings and found that the water was 120 feet deep. Maybe they must have lowered the anchor or something to count where they were. And a short time later, the soundings again was 90 feet deep. So they knew that now the ground is increasing. That means they're coming near the shore of something. Fearing that they would be dashed against the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors to slow down the ship. Okay, from the stern, and prayed for daylight because they were going very fast in that storm and they could make out that the land level is increasing slowly. In an attempt to escape, but the sailors saw that the ship is not slowing down, and so they decided to take those lifeboat and pretending that they were going to lower some anchors from the bow. So they are trying to escape themselves. They said, to hell with the ship, we want to save ourselves, and they are slowly planning to escape. Now, Paul sees this, and Paul tells the centurion, unless these sailors, if they stay with the ship, you cannot be saved. Okay, so the soldiers take charge. They see that the sailors are trying to escape. So they cut the ropes of the lifeboat. That means nobody can go. And the lifeboats are lost in the sea. Now, only the main ship is remaining. Okay, now this is what is happening. Now, just before dawn, Paul urged them all to eat. Again, early morning, Paul says, for the last 14 days, you have been in constant suspense, tension. Now, please eat something. Have you eaten anything? Now, I urge you to take some food. You need it to survive. He said this. He took some bread, gave thanks to God in front of them all. Then he broke it and began to eat. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Altogether, there were 276 of us on board. When they had eaten as much as they wanted, they lightened the ship by throwing the grain into the sea. So they ate everything and then they threw the rest of the grain into the sea to make the ship light. Now, can you tell me, how did Paul encourage the passengers? What did he do? How did he encourage them when they were so afraid? What did he do? Anyone?
He shared what the angels.
What are the ways in which he encouraged? He shared what? What did he? What are the few things he did to encourage the people in the ship? Anyone? Hello. What did he do? This is easy for Sunday school children also. Come on, please quickly answer. Okay, I think Sinai disconnected probably. Anyone can answer? What did he do? How did he encourage those people who are afraid? Come on, unmute. Are you afraid or what? He spoke to them. Don't be afraid. Okay. And he gave them, he encouraged them to eat. And we see he gave thanks. He broke the bread. Something like Holy Communion. Maybe there were some people, they were already Luke and Aristarchus with him, but maybe some had already believed. He might have shared the gospel. Okay. But he encouraged them to eat. So it goes to show that encouragement is not just words. It can also be practically giving food for people to eat. So it's very, very important. What kind of an encouraging person are you? Do you always say, don't worry, brother, I will pray for you, sister, I will pray for you, but you don't ever give people food to eat, which means you're not able to help them in a practical way. It's very, very important to think about that. So when daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but they saw a paved sandy beach where they decided to run the ship aground if they could. Cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. There they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. Okay, so they saw the land and they could not recognize what land it was. So cutting loose the anchor, they left the sea. Okay, so basically now coming back to the map. Okay, I thought we could cover 2 chapters, but it looks like not. So they saw Malta and they saw the land, and now here they are going up and down the sea, and then they come to Malta. The ship lost all aboard. So the ship breaks here, and then they swim it. They jump into the sea and swim. Now see what happens. Okay, back here. Okay, so cutting loose the anchor so that the ship can go forward. They left them in the sea and at the same time untied the ropes. So the ropes that were holding the rudders, and they hoisted the foresail, the sail, and made for the beach. That means they jumped for the beach. But the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. The ship struck something and it was now cracking. So the bow stuck fast and would not move, and the stern was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surf. So now the soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming and escaping. Why did the soldiers want to kill the prisoners? Anyone? The prisoners were just trying to reach the shore. So why the soldiers wanted to kill the prisoners? They just wanted to save themselves.
The prisoners can escape, and it will come on the heads of the soldiers.
Come on the heads of the soldiers.
Like they have let them go.
Okay, correct. Partly. Any other reason why the soldiers kill? Why did they want to kill them? Why not catch them? Why not put them in the rope or something? Why kill them? Yeah, Sister Mary?
Maybe he don't want to kill Paul, so he was avoiding killing others also. He wants to save Paul.
No, according to the Roman rule, if a soldier escapes, if the prisoner escapes, the soldier will be put to death. You understand? So if the prisoners would have escaped, the soldiers would have been executed, killed. So that is how fierce Roman rule. So they said that we should not die, better we kill these people so that we can live. That was the thinking, and they went to kill. That's when the centurion wanted to spare Paul's life, and who could swim to jump overboard first and get to the land. The rest were to get there on planks or on other pieces of the ship. In this way, everyone reached the land safely. Okay, now this is what happens now. So I think this is the rest were to get to there on the planks and others. So the centurion intervened. He wanted to save Paul's life. So he said, "Don't kill anyone," and let them say all so all of them swam on the planks or whatever, and they were able to reach the shores safely. Okay, now let's maybe what we can do is maybe we'll leave 28 for next time, because then we can finish that also in one set. But let me just ask you some questions. It doesn't matter if we finish slightly early. Okay, now from this particular journey that we saw, how they come, from here they try to push forward. Paul warns them, but they still go ahead. They get lost into the sea. There were days nothing happens. That Paul tells them, do this, do that. They start listening, and the ship run aground and they reach Malta. All 276 are saved. Now, what do we learn? If we look at Paul's life, do you think Paul's life was a smooth sail, or Paul's life was a stormy life? In general, total, I'm saying. I'm not talking about just this story. In general, I'm asking, was Paul's life a smooth sailing life, or was it a stormy life? Anyone?
Stormy, Pastor.
It was a stormy life. What makes you say there was a lot of storm in Paul's life? What makes you think?
He had to stand in trial, and he went without.
He went to?
He went without food, and he had to even go into hiding. He was let down the basket.
Yes.
So every move there was from
Yeah.
the beginning there was a storm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Paul, yes. Anybody else wants to share whether Paul's life was smooth sailing or stormy life? Why do you think it was stormy? So Paul had a lot of struggles in his life. He mentions in one place that he was shipwrecked, he was beaten, he was stoned to death also. But somehow he got up, and he was flogged many places. People wanting to kill him. So he had to hide. He was brought in front of the judge's court. So it was not a smooth. Normally, when we think of God's will for our life, do we think of a smooth ship sailing, or do we think of storm? How do we normally think of God's will? When God is blessing us, when God is with us, do you think our life is going normally? What is the picture we have of God's will? Is it a smooth sailing, or is it storm? Normally, what do we tend to think? Anyone? What do we associate God's will with? Okay, Sinai is back. Great, Sinai. Yeah. What do we associate God's will with? Anyone? Smooth sail, sunlight, water blue, nice calm sea, nice weather.
We expect that.
We expect that. Okay, we expect everything to go well, nice smooth sailing. We are enjoying this nice boat ride. But is it like that in truth? Is our life a smooth sailing life? Hello? What do you...
Not at all, Pastor.
Yeah, Sinai has anything to say?
No.
Mrs. Marcus, our Sister Asha.
Mm.
Do you think, Sister Asha, is life normally smooth, or is it storm?
Balance it is.
Balance. Balance. That is a balanced answer also. Okay. We don't like storm. No? We don't like storm. Normally, we don't like it.
Correct.
We don't want trouble. We don't want difficulties. But do you think, can God be in the storm? Can God be present in the storm? Can the storm sometimes be God's will? Can God guide us not just through clear sky and wind, but even through the storm? Anyone? Can God guide us even through the storm? Can God be present in the storm?
Pastor,
Anyone?
like God is present in the storm, but it's we who many times doubt about it.
Okay. Yeah, Sanu says very much. We doubt about it. Yeah, very true. And normally, okay, when we, yeah, so God can be a God of good weather, but he can also be a God in the storm, right? Now you saw that this sea is so big. See, from Crete, when they got lost in the storm, they had to reach Malta. If they had gone this way, if they missed that small island of Malta, they would have definitely died. They could not have reached. So even in the storm, they correctly hit that target. They hit that small island. Otherwise, they would not have survived. So there was so much scope for error. So somewhere the storm was also God controlling them in a way to correctly reach the place they had to. Now it doesn't mean we should have some unhealthy attraction for bad things to happen. It doesn't mean that. But what should our attitude be towards storm when the storm comes? What are the things we can learn from this story when the storm hits our life and we suddenly find ourselves in the storm? What can we learn? Anyone?
First, we have to keep just the opposite. There's a storm there, but we have to keep calm. I think that's a
We have to
first
keep
thing.
calm.
Calm, yeah.
Okay. In the storm, we have to keep calm. Anything else we can learn from the story? In the storm, what can we do when we are caught in a storm? This is Marcus, Sinai, Sister Asha, Sister Mary James, Sanu.
Trust God.
Huh?
In the times
Trust
of
God.
difficult, yeah,
Okay.
trust God.
Yeah. Keep calm and trust that God is in control. Okay. Anything else we have to do? Anything else? So we have to keep calm and trust God. And so it means we have to just be like this, hands up.
We should believe that God is with us in
Huh?
storm period. We should
Pardon?
believe that God is. We should believe that God is with us in storm time
We should believe that God is with us
and
in
trust
storm.
Him. Yeah.
Okay. But what do we learn from Paul? What Paul's behavior in the storm? What did he do when he was in the middle of the storm? What was the thing? That he did that we can learn from Paul? We have to, anyone? We have to, what did they do in the ship? What were they doing? Were they just sitting quietly in the ship? Hello? Okay.
Paul prayed, I think. Yeah.
Huh?
Prayed. Paul took time
Praying.
to, yeah.
They were
praying.
sitting together and
Yeah,
praying.
what happened? What did the people in the ship do when they were in the middle of the storm? What are the things they were doing to save themselves? Which was not wrong also, because that is what they do to survive in the storm. What did they do? Yes, Sinai's answer. They let go of the cargo. What they thought was very, very important, they threw it to save themselves. So when you are in the storm, you better submit to God, submit to what you should be doing in the storm, which means try to use your common, at least now let go those things, because otherwise those things will take you down with it. Okay. So there was a story of a wrestler, I think, who came to from Turkey, and he came to America, and he fought America's great champion, world wrestling champion. I think it was some years back when there was no match fixing. So he defeated him, and he said that instead of paying in dollars, you pay to me in gold. And so when they paid him in gold, he put that gold coins or whatever in a form of a belt around him. So he was a very big guy. And so he was returning from America to Turkey in a ship, it seems. And the ship got caught in the storm. And when it got caught in the storm, he was drowned in the sea, because at that time he was wearing the belt and he did not want to let go of the belt of gold that was there. So we must know when to let go of those things. Actually, the storm can sometimes sanctify and cleanse us, our unnecessary worldly expectations, what we think our security lies in wealth or cargo and all. We need to let go of those things. Very, very, very important. Yeah. So that's what we see. Another thing, what is the pressure that can come across on anyone when they are caught in the storm? One is you have to do what is necessary to survive. But what is the other kind of pressure that can come on someone when you're in the middle of the storm? You can see that in the behavior of some people there in the storm. Some crew members, what did they do? What were they trying to do? Some people in the boat, they were not working as a team. There was one group. What did they want to do? Anyone? Hello, anyone? No? They wanted to, what were the sailors wanting to do? Sailors. Did you not read it? The sailors, what were they trying to do quietly? Come on, come on. They wanted to save themselves. Huh? They wanted to save themselves. They did not want to save others. And the soldiers, they also wanted to kill them so that they can be saved. So in the storm, what happens? We all behave like monsters, because we want to somehow survive for ourselves. Who we are is discovered only when you are thrown in the storm. Whether you are a poisonous snake or a lion instead of a lamb, or some kind of a scared mouse, it will all be found in the storm. So how do you behave in the storm? It's very, very important. It exposes us. We must be like Paul. See, the resistance to the storm is not in the sail or in the anchor. It is in the character. The character, Christ-like character that we have to maintain, like Paul maintained. Okay. Yeah. And with that, we will close. And I will just show you. I will just show you something. And maybe I need to stop this live